Let's kick off this explainer by completely shattering a fundamental myth about what your body is actually made of. We're diving into a genuinely fascinating emerging field right at the intersection of quantum biology, biophysics, and anatomy. For decades, science has essentially treated the water inside us as little more than biological packing peanuts, right? Just this passive fluid whose only job is to transport chemicals from point A to point B. But what if I told you that the water inside you is actually a dynamic, highly structured, and intelligent medium that might literally be listening to your thoughts? To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at the math. You've probably been told your whole life that your body is, 60 to 70% water by volume. And sure, strictly in terms of pure mass, that's true. But the absolutely mind-blowing reality is that on a molecular level, you are a staggering 99.9% water. If you were to count every single molecule in your entire body, almost every single one of them is H2O. So you aren't just made of water, you are quite literally a walking, talking body of water.
And this staggering reality brings us directly to the concept of biowaters. When researchers talk about biowaters, they're referring to the highly specialized departments of fluid running through us. We're talking about your lymphatic fluid, your blood, your cerebrospinal fluid, and the deeply integrated water contained right inside your fascia. The key takeaway here is that these biowaters aren't just some passive backdrop where biochemical reactions randomly happen. They actually act as a highly active, intelligent conduit for information.
It helps to contrast what we usually think of as water's classical states with the reality of biological water. In grade school, we all learn about liquid, solid, and gas. But inside your cells and tissues, water just doesn't behave like the unstructured liquid pouring out of your kitchen tap. Instead, it behaves much more like a liquid crystal. It aligns its molecules into these incredibly structured patterns that let it maintain fluidity, but also transmit electrical signals and information at blisteringly high speeds. It's actually remarkably similar to how liquid crystals work in the display screen of the device you're probably looking at right now.
Okay, so let's talk about the structural hardware making all this communication possible, because it operates on a few really fascinating levels. First, we have what's called structured or hexagonal water, which organizes itself into a lattice shape that enhances your body's electrical conductivity. Then we have easy water, or exclusion zone water, a concept popularized by Dr. Gerald Pollack. This is considered the fourth phase of water. It has this gel-like consistency, carries a negative charge, and acts exactly like a biological battery. It stores energy and potentially plays a massive role in how your cells talk to each other. And finally, there are even theories of quantum coherence, which proposes that water molecules in your body might actually act in unison through quantum entanglement, creating a bridge between subtle energetic frequencies and physical biology.
What's wild is that this kind of structural hardware was actually anticipated decades ago by the visionary scientist and Nobel laureate Albert Szent-Györgyi. He realized pretty early on that standard solution biochemistry, the whole idea of molecules just sort of randomly bumping into each other in a fluid, was way too slow to explain the incredible speed and subtlety of a living organism. He knew there had to be a faster communication network, so he focused his research on the insoluble scaffoldings of the body, the exact stuff that other biochemists were routinely just throwing away. He brilliantly stated that the electromagnetic field, along with water, forms the true matrix of life, and that water can form structures capable of transmitting energy. Szent-Györgyi basically figured out that molecules don't even need to physically touch each other to interact. Energy can just flow right through the electromagnetic field, and those highly organized layers of water surrounding every single protein and DNA strand act as a superconductive channel for that energy. Now, to really grasp this matrix, we have to emphasize the profound difference between studying dead tissue and studying living tissue. For centuries, anatomy textbooks described fascia, that connective tissue web wrapping all our muscles and organs, as just dumb, passive scaffolding. Why? Well, because they were studying cadavers. When a body dies, the fascia dehydrates. It loses its water, its electricity, its life. But living fascia, that's a completely different story. It is a highly hydrated, bioelectric system that literally generates its own charge.
This intense interconnectedness forms what biophysicist Dr. James Oschman calls the living matrix. Imagine a continuous, body-wide network that includes the extracellular matrix, the connective tissues, and the ground substance. Water is intimately organized around every single protein fiber in there. This entire matrix acts as a massive, body-wide reservoir of electrical charge, constantly moving electrons around to neutralize free radicals and keep your electrical system in balance. It's essentially a continuous fabric connecting every single part of you to every other part.
And because it behaves like a liquid crystal, your living fascia is what we call piezoelectric. That just means it generates an electrical charge in response to mechanical stress. Because of this, it can transmit information at the speed of light. Literally, every time you move, or stretch, or apply pressure to your body, you are generating dynamic bioelectrical signals. Your fascial system is so much more like a high-speed fiber optic network than the traditional, slow chemical telephone wire we usually picture.
Let's zoom in and see how this physical pull reaches the cellular level. Think of it like tugging on a single thread right at the edge of a spiderweb and watching the center vibrate. Mechanical stress from the outside of a cell travels down structural filaments, crosses right through the cell membrane, and literally physically pulls on your DNA to turn specific genes on and off. So your mechanical environment is physically shaping your genetic expression, and water is the absolute crucial medium facilitating this entire chain reaction.
All this incredible physical hardware lays the groundwork for a somewhat controversial but totally fascinating concept, water memory. This gets brought up a lot in the context of homeopathy. Basically, biophysicists have proposed that the hydrogen bonds holding water molecules together actually form a helical structure, and that structure acts exactly like a coil. When it's exposed to electromagnetic fields, currents reverberate within the water, almost like the ringing of a tuning fork. Hypothetically, this allows the water to actually store molecular signatures and vibrational information. Our sources highlight several researchers, like Dr. Masaru Emoto and Veda Austin, whose experiments suggest water might literally act as an antenna. You might have heard of Emoto's famous experiments. He demonstrated water forming these beautiful, intricate ice crystals when exposed to positive words, but totally distorted, irregular shapes when exposed to negativity. Austin's research explores a similar idea, suggesting water can imprint and manifest images, symbols, and feelings. It all points to the idea that water picks up on quantum-level information, intentions, and vibrational energy.
So, the real crucial point here is how this antenna effect might play out across your specific biowater departments. In your blood, structured easy water is theorized to act as a boost, a biological battery helping to actually propel blood flow. In your lymphatic system, your emotional state could very well influence the physical flow of your immune cells. And in your fascia, chronic emotional stress and trauma can literally cause that liquid crystalline matrix to dehydrate, harden, and completely lose its vital electrical conductivity.
But perhaps the most profound implication involves your cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF. Usually we just think of CSF as biological bubble wrap, right? Just there to keep your brain and spinal cord from bumping into your skull. But this highly structured liquid is constantly in motion, bathing your entire central nervous system. If the principles of structured water hold true here, your CSF is a highly sensitive conductor. It could be opening up a direct physical bridge for your consciousness and thoughts to interact right with your physical biology.
This completely changes how we view mind-body practices. It suggests that mindfulness, meditation, and positive self-talk do so much more than just give you a subjective feeling of calm. If your thoughts emit a frequency, and the biowaters in your body act as an antenna, then by changing your thoughts, you are literally tuning the molecular structure of the 99.9% of your body that is water. You're adjusting your internal mental broadcast to optimize the physical medium of your health, potentially influencing your immune response, inflammation, and healing. Fortunately, the research suggests you have the power to optimize this incredible system every single day. First, try hydrating intentionally. Maybe take a moment of gratitude before you drink to positively structure the water you're consuming. Second, practice mindfulness to clear those mental channels. Third, support your fascia with slow, sustained, gentle release. Fascia actually requires a minimum of 90 to 120 seconds of sustained presence to even begin rehydrating. And finally, get outside and ground yourself. Walking barefoot allows you to absorb the Earth's free electrons, which recharges your living matrix.
The science of biowaters really paints a picture where you aren't just a machine made up of disconnected parts. You're a highly sensitive, resonant instrument. So to wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with a pretty profound thought to chew on. If your body is a living crystal and the water inside you is the antenna that shapes your biology, what frequency are you broadcasting today?